TZ.
Right.
See his address.
From Chicago.
From Chicago. Birth date January 27th, 1925. 81st Infantry.
163rd.
163, yeah. Regiment.
That's in the Army then? World War II. Is that the Army?
Army.
Army, okay. Okay. That's what we need.
First of all, were you drafted or did you enlist into this?
I was drafted.
Okay. Where were you living at the time when you were drafted?
I was in college. I had finished one semester at the University of Illinois, and they'd given me the deferment because I was 18 in January, so they just let me finish the semester.
Do you recall your first days in the service, like what you were feeling, how they go?
Camp Grant. Scary. Confusing. A lot of things going on that I didn't understand and were not really clearly defined to me, and I just did the best I could.
What about going through your boot camp and training experiences?
I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama. I think the trip down there was worth every cent. We went on a train. I guess you'd call it a train. We sat up in cars. We got cars full of cinders. We get meals in boxes. I think it took us 4 days to get to Fort McClellan, Alabama.
What about do you remember anything about your instructors during the time?
Well, I remember the instructors we had originally were just like they portray them in the movies. They were buck sergeants and they were drill sergeants, and they got us up at stroke of dawn, and we moved quickly all the time. As soon as they said something, you moved. And we sounded like we were in the Marines more than anything else. We had to talk up loud, clear, and as I say, we didn't walk, we ran every place we went.
When you first arrived, what kind of jobs or assignments were you first? Did you have
Well,
to
we were training there for the infantry. The rumors we had, or the scuttlebutt we had, was that we were going to be trained for the European theater of war, and we went through all the drill. First thing we were drilled constantly. The first thing we did in the morning was a couple of hours worth of close order drill, and then we did field exercises. They would outline an attack for us, and that was before they got us the rifles.
What about, could you tell me a couple of your most memorable experiences throughout the war?
That's it.
Any memorable experiences that you had throughout the war?
Well, it's hard to say. The worst experience I ever had was when I was being shipped overseas. We went to Angel Island, in the Bay of San Francisco, and we went on we were shipped out on the luxury liner to Matsonia, and I spent the rest of that trip hanging over the side because subject to motion sickness. And I never saw my cabin. I never saw my bed. I hardly ever saw the dining room because I was always sick. And then we had a submarine scare because we were not in convoy. And this is a big ship. And all of a sudden, here it goes. Just like that, back and forth. And there I was. I figured by the time I got through with that trip, I lost about 15 pounds. Because I didn't eat anything. I couldn't eat anything. And I just lived through it. And I first became involved with Perry Mason books. I read every single one of them because that was about all there was to read. But when we got to a place called New Guinea. New Guinea? What's New Guinea? I never heard of it before. And it was hot. It was tropical weather, and the place, the camp we were in, smelled. Because they had dug latrines, and the latrines were not very well taken care of. And so the whole place just stunk to high heaven. And I learned to eat whatever they gave me, because that's all we had to eat. And we stayed there for a week. Then they lined us up one day and said, you, the big guy, you. And they put a machine gun in my arms. He said, you're going to be a machine gunner. I said, where? He said, well, day after tomorrow, you'll know. They took it away from me, and the day after tomorrow came, and we shipped out to the 41st Infantry Division in a place called Buna. And it was, they used to talk about Bunagona. There were two villages that stood side by side, and they had fought quite heavily there. And this was the 41st Infantry Division, 163rd Infantry. They were regular army. And they were all regular army. And we were replacements. And you knew they were regular army. Because they didn't put up with any crap. They ran the company, and they ran the division as far as we were concerned. And they did the same thing again. They lined me up, and they said, here, you've got the machine gun. I said, why me? He said, because you're the biggest guy here. And I was. And we had 2 days to get ready, and then they said, you're going to go on a beach landing. I said, we said beach landing? Yeah, a beach landing. We'd never been on a boat. The first thing they took us, they showed us, there's your landing craft. Day and a half later, we were in that landing craft going for, what was it? A ATAIPE, something like that, on the coast of New Guinea. And they were made out of wood, a wood landing barge. And we wandered around, and this poor guy, a Navy sailor, back up there, and he was firing over our heads with a 50 caliber machine gun. And have you ever heard a 50 caliber machine gun? When you're only about that far away, it sounds like a cannon. and we hit the beach. Only thing is, we didn't hit the beach. We hit a bunch of coral rocks. And they said, okay, let's go. I said, we can't go. You got to drop the ramp. Couldn't drop the ramp. The officer that with it took out his .45 and he shot the damn thing. Didn't see where we was pointing the gun. He just shot it, and down it went. And the fellows went up ahead of me, and I went up and I stepped off the end and right down in a hole with the machine gun on my backpack. And they had to drag me out because I would have drowned, because I didn't know what to do with the damn thing. So we got onto the beach, and there was no resistance. And I wasn't even sure that thing would fire after being dunked in the ocean. But I thought it would, because M1 machine guns are recoil operated, and they don't depend on lubrication. And all you have to do is depress the trigger, and you get recoil. But there was nothing there, no resistance at all. We went in for, I think it was 500 yards, secured the beach, and then he came by the next day, picked us up, and the second wave came in and took over from us, and we went up to Finchhaven, which is, I think this is Papua New Guinea, Australia. And we secured the beach there again, same thing. And they picked us up and away we went again. And we never knew where we were going. And that's what we did. We went from one beach to another because we were supposed to be well trained in beach landings. And I don't think we really were. We were all really just a bunch of scared kids. I was a little over 18. My platoon sergeant, I don't think he was much over 22, 23 years old. The officer was a recent graduate from West Point. I don't think he was much over 21, 22 years old himself. And I don't think he knew which end was up. But fortunately, our casualties were light, and we just kept doing it. We kept going all the way up the coast of New Guinea until we got to a place. As you go up the coast, it's shaped like a dinosaur. And you get up far enough up the coast toward the northern end, and it dips in like a bay. I don't remember what the bay was called. And there was an island there called the Schoten Island Group, and there was Biak Island, B-I-A-K. And typical of the islands of the Pacific in that area, solid coral. The only thing that you could tell what they wanted was the landing for planes. They were going to bomb the Philippine Islands from there. And you could always tell who had been where. If the skin was white, they were on the beach. If the skin was red, they were in the interior because it was all clay, but it was a very, very thin layer of clay. And from what I heard, a lot of our casualties were very minor stuff. The white coral is, I was told, supposed to be poisonous, and a lot of them, when they knelt down, they got themselves scraped off. But we had a terrible time with Biak Island. The Biak Island was a lot of caves, and the Japanese used these caves, and I think they must have bombed them for a week. And then the Navy came in and they shelled it for another week. And we got on the island, and they were still there. So we had to devise a plan to get them out, or try and trap them anyway. So they came up with this one. Somehow or another, for some reason, they brought in some anti-aircraft guns. Now, why anti-aircraft guns? I don't know, because there were no Japanese planes. So they had an idea. So we would go to the cave, we would spray it with machine gun fire, throw a half a dozen grenades into it, then take a flamethrower, burn out the entrance, then go in with explosive with a satchel, they call it, I'm not sure, in there. Set that off, and if that didn't work, we brought in the anti-aircraft guns, made them horizontal, and fixed it so the shells would skip and go much farther into the cave than we could possibly get. And that went on for a good month, maybe 2 months. So after that, that was the end of the tour in New Guinea. And I was down to 192 pounds. I was losing weight hand over fist. But then from there, we got replacements, and we got ready for the invasion of the Philippines. We helped build, the engineers build the airstrips, and we watched the P-38s coming in and out. It was a great sight, believe me. And we ran guard duty for another month. Then we went in to Mindanao, the Big Island, and that was the end of my tour. I got wounded on Mindanao, on the beach landing.
How did you, were you able to stay in touch with your family? So what kind of ways were you able to?
Well, my family wrote letters every day. Wrote letters, V-mail, regular letters. I told them not to send me anything because I never knew where I was going to be. I moved around so much that by the time the mail caught up to me, I was almost on my way home. But and then when I was in Australia, I was able to make a phone call home. But most of the time, it was by letter, V-mail.
How are some people entertaining themselves, kind of trying to?
Well, we did get USO troops. Troops, yeah. But they were B series. They were not A series. But they were a lot of fun. They were nice people. They were congenial. They mixed with us. They ate with us. And whatever they did, believe me, we really enjoyed it, and we appreciated it.
What did you think of your fellow officers and soldiers? Were you able to make any good friendships or anything?
The regular army that we ran into from the 41st knew what they were doing. The officers, we didn't associate with them very much. When we went into combat, our sergeants were up at the front. We never knew where the officers were, and we really didn't care. We knew what we were. They told us what to do and how to do it, and we figured that was the only way we were going to stay alive. And we did that. They were good men. When they were injured or killed, it was a sad day. In fact, it was a sad day. One of the first jobs I had was to go around the casualties and cut the dog tags off. I had never seen a dead person in my life up to that time, especially one that had been shot. And I don't think I ever got over it. I don't think you can. These were men that we, even though the association was relatively short, it was sad. And we felt bad about it. And I got through it because I was given an order. And so I did.
Do you recall the day when your service time ended?
Oh, yeah. Never forgot that day. I was at Camp Grant. I was shipped to Camp Grant by train again. Those trains. My dad knew I was being discharged that particular day, and he was there, and boy, it was a wonderful feeling.
After you were done, what did you do when you came back home? Did you work, go back to school, or?
I went to school. I wanted to get a college education, and at that time, Roosevelt University was organized in Chicago. It was a brand new school. I think 1946. Yeah. And I wanted to stay home. I didn't want to go away. I'd been away for 3 years. I figured that was enough. So I went to Roosevelt University, got my bachelor's degree. Then I went to work with my dad. He had a business, and my brother. And then in 1970, I went back to school. Get my master's degree.
Where'd you get your master's degree in?
Economics.
When you were finished, did you find it, was it difficult adjusting back to normal life for you?
I'm trying to remember. This is 60 years ago. I think that the thing that bothered me more than anything else, to getting used to, was the absence of some of the people that I went to school with, especially high school, because the entire class, I graduated in January 1943, and everybody went. And that bothered me. Some of the faces, a lot of the faces were gone. But little by little, I got used to it. When I went to Roosevelt, I had a whole new class of friends. 90% of the male students were veterans. So it was like going to school with your family. And we talked, and we had a little organization, and we would meet every so often, sit there and yap away, and relive a lot of this stuff. And a lot of it helped. It helped us acclimate ourselves. And then when we graduated, we just disappeared. The organization just dissipated because we had no use for one. Not that that's not right. That's saying it bad. It's not that we didn't have any use for them. we didn't have the same concerns in life. A lot of us got married, a lot of us already had children, so it was different.
Anything else you can think of that?
Well, I think that after I was wounded, they didn't ship me home because they said, "You'll be all right. Nice guy." But you're not good enough anymore for combat. So they shipped me to Brisbane, Australia. And they had an unusual platoon. They were all sergeants. They were in the same condition I was in. We were not wounded enough or sick enough to be shipped home. So they sent us down there. I really don't know what we were going to do down there. And the main reason I got down there is when they were interviewing us to find out what we could do, they said, "Can you type?" And I said, "Yeah, I can type." "Okay, you've got the job." And I took that typing class. I was the only male in the typing class in high school. And I spent about a year down there, got attached to MacArthur's headquarters company, and I helped clean out American facilities in Australia as they moved up to the Philippines. And I left from there. Great place. Yeah. I almost got married down there. I'm glad I didn't.